Yo, welcome in everybody, OG Diablo 2 players. Does this boy over here look familiar to you? How about now? Maybe with a little bit closer look, you see that bright gold sword? Maybe that gives it away. Now it looks quite a bit different. Maybe you recognize him now. This is actually what the Perfect Barbarian looked like in the early 2000s. So back in the day, there weren't all the overpowered runewords and stuff like that, so uniques kind of reigned supreme as far as gear. But very quickly, a bunch of glitched and hacked items came onto the scene, so I don't have exact examples of that, but Editor Phil will swing in some pictures that will show you exactly what you would use here on that old school barbarian back before all the runewords took control of the game. I do almost all this from memory and from some research I did online, so if there's anything you think I missed, forgot about, or whatever, feel free, put it in the comments. Me and everybody else would love to hear about it. You know who'd probably do a really good job at doing this stuff from memory? Some of the sweet guests I have over on the Philcast, the podcast I do with other Diablo 2 content creators. I got some exciting guests coming up. Links in the description to that other channel because I put them all on a separate channel now. And I have a Super Phil Clips channel, which I put little clips from that podcast if you don't want to watch a full 2 or 3 hour podcast. And I also put kind of funny clips over on that channel as well. Links in the description, subscribe up to those. So first we'll just take a look at the skills, and mainly from what I remember, the main skill that was used all the time, Whirlwind. You didn't have to use any of this other stuff. You weren't frenzying, you weren't berserking around. Whirlwind was, if not the most powerful, it was one of the most powerful skills in the entire game. You heard that right, in the entire game. There were barbarians all over the place, whirlwinding through cows, just hitting down the cows in just one hit. So Whirlwind was used just all the time. I don't ever honestly remember seeing anyone using any of the other skills. Now, obviously, some of the war cries and stuff like that would have been used, but a lot of this stuff had been changed since the way it was in the past. But mainly, I do want to point out, Whirlwind was absolutely crazy back in the day. Now, go ahead and take a look at the gear, and this is obviously the most interesting and the main focus of the video. Now you're taking a look at that sword, and maybe now that you see it, you know exactly what it is, and that is the Grandfather Colossus Blade. Now, this item was so sought after and so rare when the game was originally out, it was going for hundreds of dollars on eBay. It was so rare, in fact, I didn't even ever really see one, except for occasionally a picture of one on the internet when that dial-up internet was just cranking up and it'd take you 10 minutes to even look at one picture. I seen pictures of it on the internet, but I never actually seen one in real life. They were so rare, so uncommon, and so sought after. Now, if you're thinking of other types of swords, actually, it's very interesting, and we have a lot of nostalgia talking about this on stream. The Cruel Colossus Blade of Quickness, CCBQ, excuse me, Cruel Colossus Blade of Quickness, or CCBE, Cruel Colossus Blade of Evisceration. One had increased attack speed, one had max damage. I tell this story all the time. I found a Cruel Bullrug Blade of Evisceration. Unfortunately, I couldn't end up not being able to find anyone to trade for it, but I used it on my Barbarian. It absolutely slapped down, but it wasn't the correct base, so you know how everyone has to have absolute perfect items all the time. As far as it comes to D2, it was no different back in the day, sort of. Now, if you get moving a little bit further along, you can get into the crazy glitched and hacked items. You're looking at Ith swords. Now, this is pretty much what they would do is after a certain patch, so this is a little bit longer into the 2000s, I suppose, when you could put a rune word into an item, you would zap the runes out, and then you could plug in jewels and runes and things like that to get maybe the 50% enhanced damage from an ohm, 40/15s and things like that. But when you zap the runes out, when they added that Heroic Cube recipe in, it left all the effects from the original rune word that you put into it. A lot of times they would plug in silence. It would be 6 open sockets. It's a 6 rune word. So then you could plug in 6 jewels and runes on top of the silence. That's how you got all these crazy stats like this. Now up on top here, we've got the Ariat's face. Very, very, very similar to nowadays. Ariat's is an absolute go-to for barbarians still to this day, and it was no different back in the day. For up here, for the helmet up here, I don't really have a lot of memory of other options for the barbarian, so feel free to hit the comments and let me know. You know, there's no way I can memorize literally everything from 20 years ago, and I'm doing a lot of this off of memory or research I've done looking on the internet. There may have been Ith helmets that I just can't recall. Perhaps it would be good on the barbarian, but I just don't remember it personally. So we'll jump down to the armor, and here I got Arcane's Valor. This was actually one that was pretty darn rare back in the day, and it was actually used quite a bit. Past this, Shaft Stop was good with the life and the damage reduction as well, but I feel like I remember hearing Arcanes being incredibly valuable back then and incredibly sought after and used here on the Barbarians with, you know, Vitality. And I'm pretty sure, let's see if Editor Phil can find an older version. I think it used to have a % damage reduction instead of damage reduced by on it. Could be wrong there, but when you move a little bit further into the 2000s, like I mentioned before with the Is sword, you actually had Ith armors as well, the same type of situation. You'd throw in a rune word, zap them out, the rune word effects would stay on it, but now the sockets would be empty. Plugging in 4015s and runes and all different types of jewels and things like that. So yeah, another situation where bugged and hacked items took over after people figured them out. Jumping over to the gloves, Laying of Hands have been around forever. They actually used to have a higher % enhanced damage on it. They turned it down slightly, but still, even to this day, really, really darn good with the 350 damage to demons right there. I think it used to be 400 or 450, I can't recall exactly. Here's another situation where hacked gloves were absolutely amazing. They had these things called white gloves. I'll throw the picture up right here. Crazy amount, increased attack speed, but strength, vitality, I think it was a resistance, hit recovery, just all kinds of stuff on these gloves. Some of those might have been stuff on other items with this, but you'll throw up the picture and look at it right here, how crazy these white gloves were. So for that Barbarian, that's about the options that I'm aware of. Feel free to hit the comments with any others that I'm forgetting or that you knew about, because I only played on East and West Realm, maybe on Europe or Asia. They had other types of things. Jumping over the rings here, you'd look for, you know, something like you would use nowadays. Here's one for right now, Dual Leech. You got Replenish Life, All Res. Over here, Ravenfrost still getting the Cannot Be Frozen. So that's the types of things you would throw on down here. Or, once again, just like the gloves, they used to have white rings, absolutely bananas, with crazy increased attack speed. The same type of stuff as was on the white gloves. If you looked at these white gloves, white rings, you know nobody found these. They looked so peculiar because, hence the name, from the title of the ring and the gloves, it says rings or gloves in white. You knew this was a glitched or hacked item. You knew this was not legit, but they were absolutely bananas. If you get your hands on them, you'd throw them on your character. So jumping to the belt, String of Ears has always been a great option for Barbarians. Life Leech, damage reduction. So String of Ears, still the same like that. Dungo's Hardy Cord, depending on what area you're playing in. Still an okay option to throw on there. The String of Ears used to look incredibly different though. Here's actually what the 08 String of Ears used to look like. Way better than it does now. So you definitely would want to have that on your Barbarian. For the belts though, there was a glitched, it's just called a bugged belt. It was absolutely crazy. It had dual leech on it, skills and stuff like that. I personally never got my hands on this one. It's one I found doing different research for different videos. I wish back in the day I could have got my hands on this particular bug belt because it looks absolutely bananas. Jumping up to the amulet right here, we got High Lord's Wrath, and you get the, depending on the era, 20% increased attack speed, but actually back in the day that increased attack speed used to be walk run. Not everybody had Enigma back then because it didn't exist, so walk run was kind of more important back then than it is now. But increased attack speed would help you out depending. If you have all them white rings and gloves, you really don't need it. But Cat's Eye Amulet was another amulet that had walk run and increased attack speed, I believe, on it, if you did need to try to get that increased attack speed. But back in the day, it's important to know, almost everyone and every single character had these rare amulets with all different types of stuff to roll on them that had 2 to the character's skill. Now back in the day, now you have to have over level 90 on the amulet, I believe, in order to get to roll with 2 to skills. But back then, that was not the case. I believe it had to be over level 80, so just running around cow games, you're finding magic and rare amulets all the time that had 2 to character skills. So a lot of times, the Perfect Barbarian had some version of a 2 to Barbarian skills rare amulet. Over on the boots, looking remarkably similar to nowadays, we've got Gore Riders. Also, if we go back far enough, I will mention once again, there were some 08, and we're talking about the patch, not the year, 08 Gore Riders that would have been different, apparently a lot better, but still, even nowadays, Gore Riders are absolutely amazing. The good old Imp Shanks over here is what a ton of people use. These were some pre-patch boots that were then brought over after the new patches came out, and then they were duped to Kingdom Come, so everybody used these Imp Shank boots. They could actually roll with more resistances, and I believe it was the walk run or hit recovery could be different, I can't remember exactly, but they were the boots that literally everyone remembers and everybody used. Now if you're talking about down in the inventory, I don't have any here, but there were not Annies, there were not torches. What did people use? Well, some of y'all might remember these hex charms right here. They looked kind of like the white rings and white gloves, but they are absolutely crazy. 90 to vitality, 90 to strength, 90 to dexterity. Now you could rack up crazy high life pools with this. Obviously, you'd have several hundred, maybe even thousands down here of vitality points, so your health was just bananas. You have crazy strength, you have crazy dexterity. Anybody who looks at these know, wow, this is once again not a legit item, but you tried to get as many of these as you could because they made you so crazy powerful. And of course, in the Great Rust Storm, these obviously did poof. Now, right there's what the Perfect Barbarian used to look like, or should I say, this right here. An absolutely iconic look on an absolutely iconic character. So if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe up so you never miss my Diablo 2 Resurrected video. And in the future, my Diablo 4 videos. I'm putting out some here and there. But when the game comes out, we're going to be hitting it hard, fellas. Now, peace out. And don't forget, keep slaying.